Today, we're digging into something that is quite literally the foundation of every single successful career. But we usually only talk about it when something's gone wrong. I'm talking about professional ethics. So, we're going to lay out a really practical blueprint for building a career that has real integrity, one you can be truly proud of.
So let's just start with a big question, right? How do you actually build a career you can be proud of? Because it's about so much more than just a paycheck or a fancy title. It's about the foundation, it's about the structure, and it's definitely about the legacy you leave behind. So today, let's draw up the plans for that.
Any great building, it starts with a solid blueprint. And for us, that means we have to get really clear on the basics. Before we can even think about building, we've got to understand the materials we're working with. So let's define our terms. First off, what does it even mean to be a professional? Honestly, it's simpler than you might think. A professional is just a skillful person who we trust to do a job according to a certain set of standards. And that word right there, trust, that's the whole game. Without it, the entire structure just falls apart. Okay, so if being a professional is all about trust, then ethics, well, ethics are the rules that maintain that trust. They're the agreed-upon standards for how you're supposed to act, the kind of behavior everyone in your field is expected to follow. Think of it like the building code for your career. So, we've got our blueprint. Now, we need a toolkit. Why? Because the real world, it's messy, it's complicated, and having a good set of tools is what's going to help you navigate those really complex choices with some confidence.
And inside that toolkit, we've got a few classic ways of looking at problems. There's utilitarianism, which is all about choosing the option that does the most good for the most people. Then you've got rights ethics, which focuses on protecting the fundamental rights of every individual. There's also duty ethics, that's about fulfilling your obligations, keeping your promises. And finally, virtue ethics, which kind of flips the script and asks a really simple question. What would a person of integrity do right now? Knowing these different approaches helps you look at a problem from all sides.
And that leads us to a super practical, 4-step framework for when you're facing a tough call. First, you've got to identify what the actual dilemma is. Be specific. Second, analyze your options. Maybe use those theories we just talked about. Third, make a choice. You have to commit. And finally, and this is so important, act and reflect. That last step is how you learn. It's how you get better over time. See, this isn't about being perfect. It's about having a process you can rely on to make better, more thoughtful decisions. All right, so theory is great, but let's get down to brass tacks. How do we apply this blueprint on the actual job site, day in and day out? This is where ethics stops being just an idea and becomes a daily practice. Look, we all want to believe we're working in a perfect world, but what happens when things go wrong? When you see unethical stuff happening all around you? Well, just being able to recognize it, that's the first step. And these failures, they can happen at every single level. It's almost never just one bad apple. You might have a contractor using subpar materials, a consultant who compromises on supervision, or even a client who delays payments or demands kickbacks. The main takeaway here is that professional ethics is a shared responsibility. The integrity of the entire project depends on every single person doing their part. And while it's really important to spot those big, dramatic failures, you have to realize they don't just happen out of nowhere. A culture where ethical shortcuts are okay often starts with a breakdown in just basic professionalism. That's why building a strong reputation, that foundation of trust we talked about, it's really built in the small, everyday interactions, and it all starts with how you communicate. So let's do a few rapid-fire pro tips on communication. First one's easy. Choose the right tool for the job. An email is almost always going to be more professional than a text message. Number 2, respect people's time. Try to communicate during standard office hours and don't expect people to reply on holidays. It's just simple, basic courtesy. And third, keep your tone professional. Using formal language shows that you take your work and, more importantly, the person you're talking to seriously. Now, this whole idea of respecting time and trust, it goes way beyond just emails. It's also about how you ask for professional favors, like, say, when you need a letter of recommendation. When you need a reference, rule number 1 is absolutely non-negotiable. You have to get their consent before you list their name. Never, ever just assume it's okay. Rule number 2, give them plenty of time. A good letter takes real effort, so giving them at least a week's notice, that's the minimum professional courtesy. And rule number 3, this is a big one. Just because they said yes once, that is not a lifetime pass. You need to ask for the permission every single time you want to use them as a reference. All of these principles, they're all building towards something bigger, which brings us to our final section. Because true professionalism, it isn't just about not making mistakes, or even just doing your job well. It's about building a legacy. It's about making an impact that goes way beyond the paycheck. So what does that actually look like? Well, it means using your professional skills to really engage with your community, whether that's volunteering for an organization you care about, starting a local cleanup drive, or organizing donations. These are real, tangible ways to put your ethics to work for the greater good. But there's a really important catch here, and it's captured perfectly in this quote from our source material by Dr. M. Mazhar Salim. It should not be just a visit. This isn't about showing up for a photo op. It's about meaningful engagement. It's about making a real, lasting contribution. And that really brings us to the ultimate point of all this. True professional ethics is about more than just you. It's about recognizing that your skills, your knowledge, your integrity, they're all tools that you can use to build a better, stronger community for everyone. So we'll just leave you with this final thought. Your career is one of the most important things you will ever build in your entire life. So the question is, what are you going to choose for its foundation? Thanks for joining us.